In the wasteland of the Eastern Front, in Pidubin, north of Velika Novosilka, the metallic weight of war filled the air. The grey sky was gloomy, like a reflection of despair. The trees stood as if bent with pain, and every bush was a witness to silent waiting. In the middle of this silence, the Leopard 105 tanks of the 2nd Tank Battalion of the 5th Heavy Mechanized Brigade were lurking like cats of prey. Their rusty, weathered hulls bore countless traces of war, but their barrels, like the symbol of a steel will, were forward-looking and determined. The engines of the tanks whispered their might like the growl of a beast. The command over the radio ended the tense wait. Targets identified. Fire at will. With this order, it was as if the silence of the entire front was suddenly shattered. Fireballs spewed from the barrels of the Leopards. Bullets tore the sky and flew towards the Russian positions. The noise of the explosions shook the whole plain like thunder. This was a storm of revenge rather than a tank attack. The steel armour of the Russians shattered like pieces of paper in front of this storm. Each tank, like a warrior, attacked the enemy positions with all its might. Inside their tanks, surrounded by the smell of sweat and gunpowder, the crews were proud to fight for their homeland. This offensive was not just a military operation, but a manifestation of the Ukrainian spirit of resistance. The triumphant wind of this successful offensive in Pidubin gave morale to the entire front. Although the cruel face of war had once again shown itself, this victory proved that hope still existed. Each explosion was an echo of the Ukrainian soldiers' desire for independence. The sound of tank tracks struck fear into the hearts of the enemy and showed how determined the fight for this land was. Even before the echoes of this victory in Pidubna had cooled, hundreds of kilometers away, in Kharkiv Oblast, the fires of a completely different operation were burning. The summer sun filtered through the leaves of the forest, beating down on the metal hulls of T-72 AMT and BTR-4E armoured vehicles. These vehicles of the 3rd Tank Brigade were so skillfully disguised by the green and brown tones of the forest that they became part of it. Deep in the forest, hidden behind the trees, the Russian infantrymen were lost in their own little world, unaware of the danger that was about to come upon them. Birdsong, rustling leaves, and the distant sound of an engine. The Russian soldiers did not yet realize what these sounds meant. However, this tranquility ended abruptly with the roar of the engines of the T-72 AMT and BTR-4E. The armoured vehicles sped through the trees, their barrels pointed towards the unknown ahead. The commander's order had come, this time for an attack at closer range. Targets under fire. The T-72 AMT's 125mm cannon and the BTR-4E's autocannon and machine guns opened fire simultaneously. The shells pierced through the tree trunks and hit the trenches of the Russian soldiers. This was the first step in a major and critical operation. Ukrainian soldiers, protected by their armoured vehicles, were inflicting heavy casualties in the enemy ranks. Each shot was a hammer blow to break the enemy's power. This operation showed how determined Ukraine was on every front. This careful and sharp operation, through vehicles in the woods, once again announced the courage and determination of the 3rd Tank Brigade to the whole world. This sudden and fierce clash in the forest inflicted deep wounds on the enemy's defence line. In the Toretsk direction, a new dimension of the front was emerging. Against Ukraine's technological superiority, the Russians were trying to advance with tanks reinforced with metal plates, which they called turtle tanks. These tanks, although slow and cumbersome, were designed to protect against drone bombs. Their armoured shells protected them like a shield as they moved slowly towards Ukrainian positions. But Ukraine's 28th Mechanized Brigade and the Predator Police Brigade were determined to use their intelligence to stop these lumbering monsters. They had prepared minefields in advance, anticipating the movement of these tanks. As the first tank stepped on a mine, an explosion was heard that shook the entire front line. The tank's track was shattered, and its advance halted. Other tanks panicked and tried to retreat. At this very moment, Ukrainian drones appeared like ghosts in the sky and started dropping bombs on the Russian tanks. Explosions, smoke, and fires suddenly lit up the entire front. The turtle tanks were ineffective against the bombs dropped by drones. This was a demonstration of Ukraine's intelligence and determination to defeat the enemy's strategy. This was the new face of war, a relentless struggle between drones, mines, and armoured vehicles. This unexpected Russian failure upset the balance on the front line and further consolidated Ukraine's defences. It was not only the defence of a piece of territory, but also a tactical victory that would change the course of the war. As news of this strategic victory in Toretsk spread, a similar ambush was being set up in the Donetsk region, near Novoekonomichne. A Russian convoy of 3 vehicles from Myrolyubivka was travelling rapidly through the darkness. Together with the infantry, this convoy planned to launch an attack on the city. However, the Ukrainian forces had learnt about the enemy's plans in advance. On the side of the roads, hidden behind trees and bushes, Ukrainian soldiers waited quietly. When the convoy reached the ambush point, it was as if even nature held its breath. And then, the gates of hell opened. Ukrainian forces opened fire simultaneously. Shells, rockets, and grenades rained down on the Russian convoy. The first vehicle stopped with an explosion and caught fire. Other vehicles panicked and tried to retreat. However, it was too late. Ukrainian troops destroyed the entire convoy. It was like a group of hunters trapping their prey. It was a testament to the determination and courage of the Ukrainian forces to defend their homeland. It was not just a battle, but a victory that showed how determined Ukraine was on every front. Each shot was a ray of hope, a shout of victory. It was an event that showed the cruel face of war, but also the spirit of resistance of the Ukrainian people. This chain of events showed that Ukraine was not only on the defensive, but was actively fighting to drive the enemy out of its territory. Each victory was an important step on the road to independence, and these steps illuminated the future of the country. Even in the uncertainty of war, the Ukrainian people grew stronger with each victory and kept their faith in the future. These stories were stories of resistance and faith. From Velika Novosilka to Donetsk, these frontline stories demonstrate Ukraine's versatile and intelligent resistance. The synchronized attack of Leopard tanks at Pidubin demonstrates Ukraine's conventional strength, while the successful operation of T-72s in the woods at Kharkiv proves how well prepared they are for the challenges of the terrain. The most remarkable success was in Toretsk. Russia's armoured vehicles, which it called turtle tanks, were stopped by a clever trap created by Ukraine with minefields and UAVs. This event shows that war is won not only by technological power, but also by strategic intelligence and rapid adaptation. Finally, the ambush at Novoekonomichne demonstrated how effective even small units can be against enemy convoys. All these examples demonstrate the determination of the Ukrainian army to seize the initiative and surprise the enemy by using different tactics on each front. This struggle proves that the spirit of independence is fueled not only by cannon and rifle, but also by reason and courage. In this process, we have come to the end of another video. We will continue to convey the events in the following hours to you quickly and accurately. We continue to convey the events to you objectively. You can like the videos to support us. You can also subscribe to the channel to make it easier to follow new videos. I wish you all happy days. See you soon.